In this video, I'm going to show you how a designer can visually communicate with a variety of audiences in a design presentation. So you can see here, I have a PowerPoint presentation that is going to be communicating both to the design team and to the client. And so I'm going to go through this just very short 13 slide presentation and discuss with you the different slides and who they're going to be communicating to. So you can see here at the beginning, the first two slides, we have the title page here that you can see in sort of the preview pane here, and then you can see a larger version over here to the center, right? Now you can see in these first two pages, we're introducing the presentation and the name of the designer. And then here I'm introducing what we're going to be discussing in the presentation. And I'm introducing a floor plan that conveys the scope of the project itself, which are both provided to really orient all of the viewers to the viewers or audience, I'll be using those terms interchangeably, to orient the viewers to what we're going to be discussing. The next slide here speaks directly to the client because it's presenting the concept image and a range of beautiful materials and finishes that are going to help them visualize the project and engage them and communicate to them that the designer understands their vision. The subsequent slides here, we've got one that's illustrating selections for code compliance, one that's illustrating selections for performance criteria, and one that's illustrating selections for sustainability. Now, these three slides here, of course, have just placeholders in them, but what they do is illustrate both to the client and to the design team that there's going to be certain functional needs that are going to be met that are have been expressed by the client that need to be met by the materials in this space. And then there's going to be requirements that are going to need to be reflected by the materials, such as code compliance, performance criteria, and sustainability that are going to make this place safe. And so these slides here, code compliance, performance criteria, and sustainability are really communicating to both the design team and the client that illustrates to both of them that the designer understands what is needed from functional and safety requirements of this space, and then also communicates kind of the visual appeal or how these elements can still meet or express the design concept. In the subsequent slides here, you can see we have a life cycle assessment here and then some placeholders for some other life cycle assessments that will be included. Now, these slides on the life cycle assessment communicate to the client that the designer understands that there's a value being placed on sustainability. These illustrate to the client that the designer has the skills to do very detailed research in the selections of these materials, but it also illustrates to members of the design team, both the contractor and the installers, that sustainability is a priority here, and they need to be mindful of their environmental footprint or their impact and the sustainable practices that they engage in while they're on this job site. As we move forward, you can see here, we see a series of 3 drawings here at the end that are really communicating primarily to the design team because they're introducing technical information about, for example, here, the finish plan that shows where finishes are going to go and information about the finishes themselves. Now, although there is some visual information that might be understandable to the client, this drawing or these sets of drawings on this slide in particular are communicating to the installers and the contractors where materials are going to go and what the materials are going to be, so that the design team can calculate both the cost of these materials as well as the cost to install these materials. In addition, schedules and plans in general, and you can see that here as well, are kind of a checks and balances system that can be brought to the job site that illustrate where pieces of furniture are going to go by the coding system and what they're going to look like. So that if, for example, the installer of the furniture opens up a box and this chair here doesn't look like the chair that's shown in the specifications, we know that that's a problem. And so these furniture plans provide information to the design team along with the specifications that allow them to both know where these elements are going to go, where these pieces of furniture are going to go, and what they look like. And also, of course, a client can look at this and get information about how these furniture pieces and the materials look as well. You can see in this last slide here, this page is really kind of communicating to both groups. You can see that for the design team, this communicates information about the size and the layout of the space. It also provides, once again, that checks and balances system about the materials that are going to be delivered to the job site and where they're going to need to be installed, how much of the materials we need, how much perhaps it's going to cost to install these materials. But this page also communicates a little bit of information to the client about this focus area, because it allows the client to see the scope of this space, both by looking at the plans and the elevations to help them visualize, but also when these placeholders are populated with swatches, it's going to help the client really start to visualize how these materials come together. And then finally, we have the last slide here, which signals to all of the viewers that the presentation has come to a close, and it thanks them for their time, and then they can feel free to then start asking questions. So you can see here in this very short presentation, only 13 slides, we have information that both introduces the project itself and then communicates both to members of the design team and the client to really have a better understanding of the design presentation and the design solution as a whole.